Britain's King Charles III has officially been crowned as reigning monarch. The historic ceremony was attended by thousands of guests at Westminster Abbey today. The 74-year-old is the oldest royal to ascend to the throne, following his mother, the late Queen Elizabeth's death last September. South Africa's very own Pretty Yende was among those who serenaded guests as they waited for the King's arrival.
We are here to crown a king, and we crown a king to serve.
Pledge my loyalty to you, and faith and truth I will bear unto you, as your liege man of life and limb. So help me God.
Schedule have updated now on the coronation of Britain's new king. That's King Charles III today, and Queen Camilla, who was previously the Queen Consort. Bring in Voice of America's Europe correspondent Henry Ridgwell. Henry, a day of massive celebration in the UK today. I wonder what the feeling is tonight as the sun sets on a historic event.
Well, your viewers were given a small taste of the extraordinary ceremony that took place in Westminster Abbey today. As you say, an historic moment for King Charles and Queen Camilla themselves, an extraordinary moment for Britain and for many of the world leaders. Almost half of the world's leaders were in attendance today in Westminster Abbey, and were witness to a ceremony that was very religious in its nature. King Charles is a very religious man, and there were some key elements of his Christian faith in there, but also a very modern ceremony that included women bishops, that included leaders of all faiths here in Britain, but also a ceremony that draws on a millennia or more of history. Now, the first monarch to be crowned in Westminster Abbey was William the Conqueror in 1066, when he came over from France, beating King Harold and claiming the crown of England. And some of the rituals and the ceremonies that you saw today have changed little in those 10 centuries since then. For those on the streets outside, it was a wet day. It rained for most of the morning, but some people have been camping out for several days to secure the best spots along the procession route. Hundreds of thousands turned out to catch a glimpse of King Charles III and Queen Camilla as they made their way from Buckingham Palace to Westminster Abbey, and then returned back to the palace in that extraordinary state gold coach dating from the 1700s that had to travel at walking pace because of its weight, pulled by 8 grey horses belonging to the royal stables. And then that moment when the King and Queen and the rest of the royal family appeared on the Buckingham Palace balcony to wave to the hundreds of thousands gathered below that sea of Union Jack flags below, and fly past from some aircraft of the Royal Air Force that had to be scaled back because of the poor weather. But clearly a crowning moment to an extraordinary day. But there were some more negative elements that are being picked up by the media here. There were arrests of anti-monarchy protesters in parts of London today. And also the fact that Prince Harry did not play much role in the ceremony. Of course, that's the backdrop to what's going on here, the family dramas surrounding the monarchy. And notably, he did not appear on the balcony after the ceremony, and apparently was not invited to do so. So a hint of the ongoing tensions within the family.
Right.
But I think overall here it was not a day of family drama, it was a day of British pomp and pageantry.
I wonder how much of a new era this really is, because Charles' late mother, Queen Elizabeth, was very firm in her wish for a continued relationship with the Commonwealth countries. It's a complicated history, a dark history, in part because some of those countries, well, those countries, in fact, all of them, were under British colonial rule. Do we expect significant changes to the running of that relationship now that a new sovereign is in place?
I think he will seek changes, but I think they will have to be gradual and very measured. As you say, Queen Elizabeth II made the Commonwealth front and centre of her reign and saw it as vital in continuing the relevancy of the monarchy and finding a new role for the monarchy at the end of the British Empire and all that it represented at the head of that empire, and an equal relationship and a sort of consensual one with the former colonial countries, one based on respect and equal power within the Commonwealth umbrella, was something that she pursued. And Charles has obviously been very supportive of that, as well as Prince of Wales previously, and now as King. He will seek to keep that organisation well stitched together. But of course, with an organisation with the history of the Commonwealth, with its roots in the empire, there are tensions, and it will be very difficult to contain those or to even sweep them under the carpet. I think they will have to be confronted straight on. For example, Barbados was the latest country to become a republic, still a member of the Commonwealth, but has removed the British monarch as head of state, and there are several other countries that appear to be on that path, not least countries in the Caribbean like Jamaica, but also Australia and Canada. Australia now has a Prime Minister who is an open Republican and has campaigned for that. Canada as well has long had a strong Republican movement. So the elements of sort of republicanism and how they will play into the future of the Commonwealth are vital. But I think deeper than that, King Charles is going to seek to look at the history of the monarchy within British colonialism, and that could start uncovering some very difficult historical moments for Britain. We know, for example, that Britain has already paid out compensation to survivors of the repression of the Mau Mau uprising in Kenya in the 1950s that happened just in the months and years following Queen Elizabeth II's coronation in 1953. Thousands of people were killed in that, several hanged by the British authorities. £5 million of compensation paid to some of the survivors there following a court case. And of course, in all of those former colonies, there are cases that people will be willing and keen to bring to see justice, to see historical justice, to see acknowledgement by Britain and the monarchy of past wrongs. And whether that will consist solely of words, and King Charles has been vociferous on this already in describing past atrocities. On a trip to Barbados last year, he said that Britain must confront this appalling atrocity of slavery that forever stains British history. So it seems he is willing to speak. Is the British monarchy willing to take action to do things like pay compensation or to return artifacts that were taken under colonial times? We just have to look at South Africa, for example, and the ceremony today. The sceptre and orb and crown included gemstones, diamonds, taken the Cullinan diamonds, the world's biggest diamond, cut to fit into those British royal objects. and there has been a long campaign to get those returned. And that kind of argument is repeated in several colonial countries, former colonies. So I think it's going to be a very transitional reign for King Charles. He's going to have to play it carefully and gently, but also in mind that perhaps he doesn't have that, 70 years on the throne that his mother enjoyed.
Henry Ridgwell, VOA Europe correspondent, thank you very much for that update from London.